Up first, rejecting the rigmarole of investment banking, he rumbled through the ranks and had the stones to leap into decentralized developments, both physically and literally. He's full throttle into the future at Stardust, forcing us into the fray, not just navigating, but mastering multiverses of marketing. He's the wizard of wallet sales, the overlord of outreach, the strong man of Stardust. It's Wills.
Yo, stoked to be back for another week.
He's so back as I bring up Mr. Dub behind the shrapnel account. Up next, brace yourselves for a whirlwind of wit and wizardry. Our next guest is a charismatic chieftain who mastered the mythical marketplace of Magic Eden. This RuneScape enthusiast has spent countless hours mining, crafting, and slaying his way to glory in Gyelnor, and he's the architect behind the rise of Soren 11 Esports. He's built esports champions from the ground up, turning raw talent into polished professionals. He's the emperor of esports. He's the maven of Magic Eden. He's the ruler of RuneScape. You know it's Knock.
It's interesting that you added the word slaying into the intro this week because I am currently doing a Slayer task. Good to be here. Ton of great topics. Excited to dive into this one.
If I could multitask as well as Knock, I would be way less poor than I currently am. So for Christmas, just give me a second brain that's as good at that as you are. Up next, ladies and gentlemen, prepare yourselves for a powerhouse of perseverance and peak performance. This prodigious panelist is the paragon of precision. He's not just an entrepreneur, he's a perpetual pioneer, propelling businesses to unparalleled prominence. From scaling sheer cliffs to scaling startups, he's perpetually pushing the boundaries of possibility and prowess. With a portfolio packed with phenomenal feats, this perceptive prodigy has piloted more projects than he's had days on the earth, perfecting the art of perseverance and profitability. So hold on to your harnesses and prepare for a paradigm shift, because here comes the prime purveyor of progress, the prince of product and parallel. It's Koji Nagata.
Hey, thanks for having me back. I'm currently stuck in traffic and my bladder's about to explode. So if I disappear for a while, it's because I did a little pee-pee.
I'll just assume he said, "Wow, Sam, what an incredible introduction. That was the best one ever. Love you, bro."
Yes.
We're off to a great start. All right, Koji, for banding a little bit on me. I could still hear you a little bit, but it's chaos. I'm assuming you're driving through the and that you'll be back. I just randomly got muted by Twitter too, which is not ideal. Well, figuring it out. Up next, wait, is Fresco even here? He's not. Fresco, come up on stage. Request, brother. We'll get you introduction. We're in shambles today, ladies and gentlemen. Grab your boards and brace yourselves for a tidal wave of talent, hailing from the sun-soaked shores of California, where he grew up as a Mortal Kombat maestro and sported a mohawk sharper than a scorpion spear. He's the anti-weeb and the vanquisher of all things waifu, preferring the punch and pizzazz of fighting games because, as he says, bleeding is believing. From Jam City to Scopely to Playtika, he's carving a path of high scores and hang tens, weighing in at a rad amount that's totally gnarly. He's the Sultan of surfing and software, the Shogun of shredding shark-infested waters. From Champions Ascension, it's Johnny Casamessina.
What is up, Sam? What is up, everybody? Big week over here. Excited to be a part of this panel today. Shout out to the Keystone Foundation, our new partners out there. We got big plans coming. Stay tuned. Stay glued.
And now we've lost Sam.
Yeah, I couldn't hear any of that, so I was just looking to see whenever he remuted. Twitter is just absolutely giga screwed today. Johnny, if you don't mind leaving and coming back, I saw a bunch of people slamming emojis while you were talking, so it must have been incredible. I will assume also you said, "Damn, Sam, you're my best friend. We should hang out all the time. I'm offering you a job, and that this is the greatest show ever." Thank you, Johnny. That was so kind of you.
You got it.
I love
But
it.
we have to move on.
You're the greatest voice in the web
Up next,
gaming.
majestically mastering the mountaintops of mobile marvels, he's the monumental mogul of gaming milestones, molding the mechanics of wordplay into a cultural phenomenon. His masterful moves with words with friends metamorphosize the mobile meta, magnetizing a staggering 500 million downloads. This maestro of multimedia has mesmerized the masses across VR, console, PC, etc., masterfully manipulating each medium to mega success. So mobilize your applause and marvel at the magnificence of this multifaceted master. It's prolific Paul Bettner.
Can you even hear me, Sam? I feel like Sam's the one that can't hear me. Lems, can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly. This is going to be a problem if Sam can't hear basically everyone.
Sam's the one that can't hear anyone. That's going to be an issue.
Yeah, I can't confirm. I can't hear Paul either. Jesus Christ.
Oh my gosh. Sam's the one. All right, Lems, tell him. I don't know what to do, but But I'm gonna pretend I'm Sam hearing me pretending to be me, because like that's like my new favorite thing now. Is it'll just be like,
All right, I'm gonna try to leverage Katie Bettner's audio instead of my own and see
oh
if
my gosh, we're
maybe that
down
works.
bad. Or I can just go to where Sam is, because here's the top secret. Sam is in the Paul Casa today, the Bettner Casa. We are
All right,
together
up
in
next, ladies
Utah.
and gentlemen, get ready to be snowed under by the avalanche of awesomeness that is our next guest. He's hailing from the balmy Bay Area where he's smashing life's milestones, having met his wife, bought a house, and welcomed a kiddo into the world all in the last 4 years. But don't be fooled by his warm and fuzzy backstory. This guy has a frosty side. From managing streamers back in the day on Justin TV to crushing it at Electronic Arts, he's now the head honcho of gaming at Avalanche, where he's turning the icy tundra of Web3 gaming into a blizzard of brilliance. He's the snowman of strategy, the cool king of the cold front, the architect of Avalanche. It's Ed Chang.
Thank you, Sam. You're my best friend. That was the best intro I've ever heard. Would you like a job? It's great to be here, everybody. I got a fresh haircut just for this gamified. I'm ready.
All right, I'm hearing on Katie's phone the audio 15 seconds delayed, so that's not going to work. I'm going to try my best despite not being able to hear literally anybody. Up next, amidst the relentless pace of the digital realm where many are caught in the frantic race of innovation, there emerges a figure whose mantra resonates differently. Fortune favors the board. With every bite and bit, he challenges the norm, crafting masterpieces out of monotony, challenging the visionary vigor of Elon, yet with a twist of tantalizing tedium. He's the electronic enigma wrapped in a hyper parody. Now with his new venture, Edison alongside Improbable.io. Welcome back to the stage, the kingpin of quietude, the sultan of stagnation, the mogul of monotony. It's bored Elon Musk.
Just a breathtaking, brilliant, beautiful, brainy intro. Thank you for your benevolent words. Happy to be here.
Great to have you aboard. Somebody I can't actually hear. We are so back, ladies and gentlemen. It's good to be here. Man, I love being on my own show. Up next, this formidable figure has left the firehouse to fan the flames of fortune, setting the financial world ablaze with his fiery flair. Fuel the fervor as we introduce a true titan of transformation, the fearless force of fiscal fortitude, and the flaming phoenix of the boardroom. Representing Uptick, it's the mastermind with the Midas touch, the fantastic, the formidable Jerry Fresco Singer.
Yo, I just got killed in shrapnel for that intro. But yeah, I'm excited to be on Sexified. What's up, bitches?
that was wild. And also, don't blame us for the fact that you keep dying in shrapnel. That has nothing to do with it, brother. That's going to happen either way. Whether he's scuttling through the latest hot topics or basking in the spotlight of our stage, this reptilian regular is always a step ahead. Weighing in at 2.4 pounds, he's the little lizard legend who leaves Godzilla-sized impressions. It's my co-host, Lambs.
GM, everyone. This is going to be an interesting space if it's only half the panel that Sam can hear. But, you know, I'm here for it. We can figure it out.
We will indeed, as we always do. Do you hear that in the distance? It's the rumble of inevitability, rolling down the mountain like an avalanche, aka the official blockchain of gamified. With its spectacular speed and scalability, skillfully simplifying the sophisticated science of subnets, they allow avant-garde architects and game gurus alike to craft their cutting-edge creations on their subnet platform. It stands as a steadfast sentinel in the storm, driving the dawn of decentralized gaming with a dynamic, durable, and decidedly different approach. And built on Avalanche is none other than Shrapnel, currently in the midst of STX 3.1, a marvel of mayhem meticulously manifested that isn't just redefining the rules of the FPS arena, it's an extraction shooter that's tearing through the terrain of traditional gaming. And the beta launch of their Discord game, The Lunatics, now in action. Shrapnel's a gateway to prizes when paired with their Shrap token or an operator, plus a little bit of alpha from my Telegram spaces that I held earlier today. Apparently, the Lunatics might be coming to Telegram gaming as well, which is really exciting. So if you're ready to dive into a domain where your daring deeds are duly rewarded, enlist today and earn metal, quest with Moku, and have your strategies stretch beyond the screen. Thanks to Shrapnel, the official game of gamified. I see their hand up. Dub, take it away, bro. All right, couldn't hear that either, but I saw him remute.
I couldn't hear that either.
I couldn't hear that either. But
all right.
Looks like
you want me
no
to do my
one...
dub impersonation?
Appreciate you guys for hanging with us. Stardust is lighting the way with its wallets as a service, offering a marvel of modern technology that melts away the mayhem of managing digital assets, making every user's experience as smooth as silk. Unlike this Twitter space, this isn't just convenience, it's revolution, redefining the user experience of your game with a touch of a button. Doesn't that sound nice? This is where projects pivot from potential to powerhouse with the unparalleled prowess of Stardust wallet and user acquisition alchemy. Thank you to Stardust, the official infrastructure of Gamified. We're jumping in today with Bullish or Bullshit tournaments for Web 2 games with USDC payouts. Community Gaming has teamed up with Team Liquid to have a series of tournaments with a $20,000 prize pool as part of On-Chain Summer with Base. But they aren't just playing Web3 games. They're actually going to be playing TFT and Hearthstone, but the prizes will be distributed in USDC. My question for the panel, could this be the beginning of onboarding the masses by incentivizing Web2 talents to be paid in Web3? Infrastructure, whatever you want to call it, bullish or bullshit on this whole initiative? Koji has the hand up. Over to you.
Sam, I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm going to go bullish on this one. I think everyone needs a way in. And regardless of what it is, even if it's just, hey, I got paid some money and now I need to figure out how to spend it, that's just, we all start somewhere, Like I didn't start listening to punk rock with No Effects of the Ramones. It was Blink-182. So, maybe this is their Blink-182 moment.
That is one of the single best analogies I've ever heard in my entire life. Well done. All right, Jerry, I have the hand up next. Over to you, brother.
The difference between Koji and I is I did start my punk rock journey with Seeing Double at the Triple Rock. But I think it's very bullish on, it's awesome. Like, community gaming is a company that's been building for a long time, that's extremely native to the space and has a fuckload of users, way more than any game that like we know of or talk about outside of like the Axies and all that stuff. They have a ton of people going on and using the platform and getting crypto for it, right? And that is a great start for people. It's I think it's a good strategy to go where the gamers actually are, as opposed to what everybody has done in Web3, where you could argue that we're a solution looking for a problem, right? They're the opposite of that, and I'm super bullish on it. Chris is pretty public in the space, and he's taken a bunch of shots at doing cool shit, and a lot of them have actually worked out. And I think this is a really good thing for the space, and could onboard a ton of people because they have a lot of people using the platform already. And if we all like dollars, right? We don't want some fucking. It's cool for people who aren't in to be getting like the equivalent of an actual US dollar or whatever their native currency is, as opposed to like something that may be worth 2 cents today and fractions of a penny tomorrow.
Yeah, that's the part of it that really excites me, is if they go to coin market cap, they just will see that it's still worth $20,000 and we don't have to worry about people being like, oh, it's a scam, because, hopefully we can get past that part. Will's from Stardust, over to you, brother. We got 2 saying it's bullish, 0 saying it's bullshit so far. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, we're going to round that up to 3 for Bullish. I think this is a really awesome development, and I think it's really interesting for me because I started my crypto journey kind of interested in less so the gaming part, but how crypto can reinvigorate the entire financial system, and that's why we're all here, is because people were upset with how things were being done in 2008. Some guy wrote some code and created a currency, and I think it's really awesome to see the normalization of crypto as a whole starting in gaming. And I think that's because gamers are risk takers. That's how we got Nvidia, the largest and most valuable company today. And I think it's awesome to see that that's where crypto as a whole and crypto financially is taking root, is in the gaming community.
Great stuff, Wills. Let's send it over to Dub from Shrapnel next.
Holy guacamole, this thing better freaking work. The only thing that's making me want to play TFT again is this goddamn tournament. I freaking love it. It looks like you can hear me. It's Dub live from Sao Paulo, Brazil. Let's freaking go. I'm hyped.
Test. Can anybody hear me?
Yo, yeah, you're back.
We gotcha.
All right, sick. I left the Wi-Fi. It said it disconnected me for a second. We're back now on cellular service. Verizon, stay strong, baby. Knock, I'm sending it over to you.
Yeah, I think this is bullish. I mean, having worked with community gaming in my past life quite often, they're one of the very few tournament organizers in North American esports that you don't have to worry about them paying you out after the tournament. They also are, generally speaking, very well run. The tournaments are fun. They've got good casting talent. I've always had a good experience in the esports life working with this team. What's interesting to me is that payouts will happen through Coinbase Smart Wallet. It's just social sign in. realistically, what's going to happen is these users are going to take their prizes, they're going to send it right through their Coinbase account, and then they're going to extract it and probably never look back. But there's an opportunity for that probably to be maybe they do, and maybe they stick around, and maybe they choose to use and spend that USDC somewhere within the ecosystem. I think Koji nailed it. It's a really good start. It's a really good first step to on ramping and bringing in some of the traditional esports folks. I think realistically speaking, most of the first few people who get paid out in USDC are going to extract US dollars immediately, but slowly and surely we'll make them more comfortable with the idea, and hopefully they turn into users long term.
Yeah, and I think the part of this that's really exciting, I don't really care if they end up taking their USDC and making it US dollars. I would actually love for them to go through that experience and be like, oh, wow, crypto is just real money. Like, that's what I want them to experience. So then later, whenever they hear about a token that's genuinely interesting from the utility perspective or is with a game that they actually care about, they're not so scared to do it. Or so hesitant. Johnny Casamasina would love to get your input on this one, on the last word before we move on to the next topic.
Yeah, I think it's good whenever you get people in active competition for games. Nothing excites competitive players like Cash outside of dominating their opponent. And it's just fun to watch games like that. That's the kind of stuff, those are the kind of spectacles, competitive games, money gaming, competitive gaming. That's what's going to grab eyeballs because it's exciting to watch that. It's not so exciting to watch motherfuckers just walk around a map and collect shit all day long. It's fun to watch competitive gaming. So I think that's the kind of thing that's going to bring more eyeballs from mass market in. It might not be what makes everything sticky, but it's definitely the spectacles that we need to kind of get the larger audience to actually tune in and see what's going on.
Thanks, Johnny. Unfortunately, still can't hear you, but I'm assuming it was an absolute banger. Let's move on to the next topic. We got Quickfire. Is Blast gonna last? You've had 3 months, 4 months, whatever it's been, of hearing about Blast and their ecosystem. I want to hear founders' real opinions about the chain at this point. This isn't about the airdrop. You can hear about that from a billion different tweets right now. There's a bajillion different spaces. YouTube videos are flying up faster than God. What I want to know is, has this campaign actually worked to make you guys interested in the chain itself from that point of view of user adoption, building dApps, bringing your games over, etc.? Has it been successful in actually achieving that and being competitive against other chains in this market? Give us your quick fire opinion on the Blast ecosystem. Board Elon had the hand up first.
All right, so let's use a gaming analogy. Let's say that you are going to release the most powerful video game console ever, like 10x what PS5 can do, Xbox Series S, even a PC, and you spend 6 months, rewarding people for buying it, loading up software on it, using different apps on it. But all along that time, you didn't really attract developers who were going to build games on top of that console. And then finally, when it becomes a product that you're going to release, you've offered all these rewards, you have all these consumers potentially, but there's no games. So it's a really expensive paperweight. So that's pretty much what Blast is. Unlike a lot of L2s and chains that have been spending time attracting developers and people who are building an ecosystem, they've just been giving out money for people to show up. And when there's really nothing, left to actually do on the platform, which is where we're at today, people exchange their money and they go away. And that's kind of what we've seen play out.
Yeah, great stuff, Board. And I just want to say for the panel as well, I do usually send out all of the topics. And I specifically didn't send this one out ahead of time, not to be a gotcha, but because I didn't want people to be inspired by the show to do a bunch of research on Blast and then give me their researched opinion. I want to know, based on what they've done from a marketing perspective, what your opinion or perspective is, even if it's like, I have no fucking clue, because that would tell me exactly how effective it was at recruiting games, etc. Let's send it over to Lems and then Jerry.
I think they actually did a good job of the kind of users they're trying to attract. So I'm actually going to disagree with Board on this one. From my understanding from talking to some people in the Blast ecosystem, they had incentives for some of the people to come in and develop some new dApps. But I don't think they're necessarily looking for the target demographic that we are generally here on Gamified. And we're talking about more immersive games, things that compare to traditional games. They're tapping into the degen speculator audience who like, loose games that are like light and not like very time intensive, but they have financialized aspects. That's where I think Blast will shine. I think that they're going to stick around. Pac-Man will build a new Ponzi to get people to stake all their tokens or something, and keep everyone in the ecosystem and create some sort of new incentive structure. But at the end of the day, he's catering to the audience that likes to trade NFTs. The same audience that was trading PFPs in 2021, same audience that trades meme coins, but that's the demographic they want. And I think they've done a good job of capturing that audience and bringing those users in. Time will tell if they manage to have enough ongoing incentives and various things going on. But if there's abilities and ways for people to make money on the native apps, and it is at the end of the day, it's all going to be a zero-sum game, but there will be games where some people lose money and some people make money, and I think there will always be a place for that in crypto. We see it with meme coins, and I think they're here to last, and I think they've done a good job finding their users.
Well said, Lems. Let's send it over to Jerry, then we'll tag in Wild Paul.
Yeah, I got a little win off Blast, so I may be a little bit biased here. I think I'm with Lems. I think they did a great job, and if I'm a certain type of game that's like this kind of low effort but addictive kind of style of gameplay, I'm all in on Blast, right? If I'm Wildcard or a AAA like level game, I'm not even thinking about Blast. Like it changes none of my plans. I'm not looking at Blast for anything. But if I'm what was the RuneScape like game that there was on there? Knock Cambria. There we go. Cambria was Captain. Yeah, Cambria. Captain and Company was fun little game. Obviously, it wasn't AAA. It's not super high fidelity or anything, but I think Blast is clearly catering to a different audience, and like Lem said, it's that exact audience that got hooked by NFTs in 2021, and it's that same audience that like loves to probably play like a gacha style degen game, and if you are that, you should be all in on Blast because they've shown they can keep fucking Pac-Man's gonna keep edging all of you, then he's gonna blue ball you, and you're gonna fucking come back for more because you're like, I just want to get it, and yeah, I mean they're fucking experts at that, and I think this launch and this rollout, we all knew it before, but when you had to sign up and put the PWA on your phone, like you had to turn notifications on, like they're gonna fucking crush, and they're gonna be a great distribution vehicle for some people, and I'm really interested to see what they do for the next year or so.
Yeah, good stuff, Jerry. Appreciate that. Wild Paul, your thoughts on Blast?
My thoughts are now more on Jerry because I was about to be really disappointed that this wasn't going to be sexified, and then he figured out how to work edging and blue balls into that breakdown, and I was like, okay.
I felt the disappointment, and I was like, I got to step this up for Paul.
No, you did, man. You saved it. You landed it there at the end, and thank you for that. My take is, I guess, somewhere between Elon's and Lem's, and that's mainly because I feel like we're all just kind of holding our breath to see whether like the kind of Axie phenomenon can be done again at scale, but actually reach more than the same, like basically 1,000 users just trading around their money by running giant bot farms on Karate Combat. Like I just, it remains to be seen, right? Like the user that Jerry is describing, like are there hundreds of thousands or millions of those users that want to play? Like, of course, I know there's a bunch of grandmas that want to play, or Wild Kates that want to play garden games and Candy Crush, and like that's great. But I'm not sure that that the Venn diagram that overlaps those with the Jerrys of the world who want to like play a Ponzi and win with money is any overlap at all. But I guess we'll see.
Do you need that many people though? That's the real question. Like, if you can have a small cohort of users that are all spending a bunch of money, is that make it successful?
Yeah, but that's why I brought up the Axie example, because if that could work, then what happened with Axie? Is it maybe it can work at a certain scale, and maybe our expectations are all like correctly calibrated now, and we all like understand that is a different thing. Whereas like the narrative for Axie at the moment was like, oh my gosh, it's the next Candy Crush, and then we realized, oh wait, it's not that actually. It's a bunch of people trying to extract value from this thing, but not a lot of people putting value into it necessarily yet. And if we're now okay with that, and like with a game running with 1,000 people, with giant bot farms trying to win and extract value from the rest of the people who are not who are losing out, and that's fun for that group, and that works at scale. Like, cool.
Great stuff from Paul. A couple of awesome comments too. Yap says Blast is a great L2. Jaxie says Blast is not going to make it. Only DGens and very few gamers. Captain and Co. was the only game that I played. And then Yap responds to that and says, UMFers missed Gold Rush and play Cambria, and you call yourselves Web3 gamers? And then laughs at us. Also, Paul, whenever you mentioned the games that you did in Wild Cage, she said, she said, yep, yeah, that's accurate. All right, Ed Chang, we're sending it over to you. Your thoughts.
Well, first of all, I think one of these gamifieds should be a dating show for Jerry, because we need to make this a more family-friendly show. And
Seriously, I feel like he's suffering.
I think Jerry's repressed here, so I think we should all help Jerry. Second of all, I agree. Like, Blast is built by a very strong team. I think they've got a really strong track record. They've obviously amassed the TVL and the amount of farmers on there, but I do think it's hard to continue this narrative, right? I think the biggest kind of spotlight it had was early on with everyone farming, and then you see a lot of disappointed people on the timeline. I've played around with Blast a little myself, and it was kind of a huge pain to figure out how to bridge in, and then to like bridge out. If you want the full value, you had to wait 2 weeks, right? Or else you had to take a penalty on it. It's all geared around locking people into that ecosystem. And then, to Board's point, if you don't give people meaningful things to do, they get bored, and then it's harder for them to come back, right? And in a world where for these casual kind of game experiences and clicker games, there's a lot of competition right now, right? We spent so many weeks waxing on how great the Ton ecosystem is, right? And Notcoin and like all these clicker farms there. You've got Base, like that's a place where everybody seems to want to launch a consumer app. You've got different platforms on app chains. You've got Sofon, you've got other ones. It's like there's so much competition right now, and I don't know if Blast is necessarily the place that people are going to continue to do that. And even kind of the launch of the token felt a little, disjointed today, where they didn't have any major kind of exchange listings for that, and then they announced Coinbase later in the day. I don't know if it was on purpose. It just doesn't feel like a cohesive strategy here.
Yeah, well said, Ed Chang. There's a lot to be said about how bullish it was for like 2 months there to announce that you were going to Blast, and how if you announced it today, I think it would be received much, much, much differently. Let's send it over to Knock.
Maybe a little bit of a contrarian take, but I think Blast is actually one of very few blockchains that have been very public with what their goals are and then actually achieve them. Blast from day one said this is a platform for farmers. We don't necessarily care whether or not we have a boatload of users. We care that we bring in the biggest users, and they were incredibly successful in that. In Web3 today, especially in downturns like the market that we're in right now, a small handful, maybe less than a dozen people, are responsible for on any given day upwards of like 50% of the total volume in the ecosystem. And Blast had all of them performing actions and transactions within that ecosystem, right? We're not talking about people who are making, $1 million or $10 million trades. We're talking people who are like getting 15, $20 million worth of rewards from the Blast and Blur ecosystems. So to me, they did exactly what they said that they were going to do, which was bring in the most value, the highest value users in the entire ecosystem, keep them captivated. Now, admittedly, to Ed's point, today, a lot of those users are a little pissed off at about how much they've actually earned throughout season 3 and 4, and they're upset with what the earning ratio looks like relative to the first 2 seasons. So that's a problem that I think that they've got to solve. But they're in a position where they have all of the most important people in the space from a value perspective, how much money they're spending, how much liquidity they're willing to lock up. All of them were transacting on the Blast ecosystem over the course of the last 90 days. No other blockchain can say that that is the case, where they have pretty much a 100% batting average with all of the major whales, 8, 9 figure people, all performing actions on Blast. To me, they're in a position of strength, even though they've got a little bit of a blip on the radar today. They have the problem of saying, how do we make these guys feel better, versus the problem that literally every other blockchain is fighting, which is how do we get them here in the first place? Blast secured the most valuable users. Yeah, they're a little pissed off today, but they're there. They're participating within the ecosystem. It's a good problem to have. They have a lot of work to do to make this sustainable long term. But I think like anybody who's looking at this objectively can't say that Blast hasn't been a massive success in doing exactly what they set out to do.
Interesting, strong opinion from the man himself. Over to Jerry for the last word.
Yeah, anybody who disagreed with me, Lambs, or what Nock just said is a gutless wanker, because we come on this show every week and we talk about how like the clicker is the game and it is fun for people or whatever. And I think like if you view Blast through that lens of like the farming is the game and the immersion into the ecosystem is the game, people loved it. And you talk to the people who like dove like headfirst into what Blast is doing, all of them are walking away with going like, maybe I'm a little bit disappointed with the airdrop, but that was the most fun I've had in crypto in years. And if that's the game, and if the attention economy is the game that we talk about so often, they are winning and crushing everybody, right? Now it remains to be seen if they can keep that up, but like the pattern and the history of success is there, right? It was Blur and they took over the world for a little bit. Knock, I know Magic Eden then has since stepped up and done some great things, but now they've done the same thing with Blast, and I think there's no reason to think that they won't do that with whatever the third product is, right? So if the tension is the game, they're winning and they're winning easily.
I'll give you the point on attention, but there is not a fucking chance I'm letting you get away with saying that's the most fun I've had in years. Not a fucking
Not
chance.
me. Go look at ICO Beast. Go look at the Bodago guy from Nifty who are
Yeah,
they're all saying that
the
they
guys
had
that
a ton of
farmed
fun.
6 figures of it. Okay, sure, yeah, that's pretty fun, but they didn't have fun playing the games. Come on, get out of here. Knock, over to you.
Yeah, admittedly, this is a bit of like some sketchy data, but I'm pulling this from DApp Radar just as a way to illustrate the amount of volume that is happening on this network. In the last 7 days, from like volume alone, Blast has done more volume than Solana, Immutable, Ton, Base, Ronin, Arbitrum, and Avalanche combined. That is the power of the whales that they have participating within that ecosystem. They're doing $10 million more over the last 7 days than Bitcoin. It cannot be understated how successful they've been in attracting the absolute biggest of biggest players in the space. I feel like a lot of the people who participate in Web3 do not understand that 50K, 100K, $1 million to a lot of the super power users in this space is an insignificant amount of money. And very few people in Web3 are responsible for a massive portion of the overall volume on any given month. Blast secured all of them over the course of the last 90 days. Nobody else has been able to do that. I just can't stress how like incredibly successful they've been in doing what they wanted to do.
And I'm sure they were there for the fun. They were all having so much fun playing Cambria and clicking that wallet transaction that they just kept coming back. Ed Chang, over to you.
Yeah, and I think my response to Jerry on that is like, sure, maybe certain people are having a ton of fun, but like, which audience is this, right? And there's a larger question of like, what are we trying to solve for here, right? Do you think that anybody new to crypto or any retail person was like, oh, let me go figure out this Blast thing and this point system, and let me bridge $5 million for the first time to trade back and forth to earn some points that I don't know like what it gets redeemed for, right? And so I think if you're maybe by the definition of success in terms of transaction volume and wallets and points, I could see that being a really strong metric to solve for. But if we're thinking about where do you want to build a game, how do you tap into a larger retail audience, how do you make it easier to onboard them into your ecosystem, I think there's a larger question there, is I think the point of some other people, I'm assuming.
Ooh, a bunch of hands came up on that one. Curious to see what y'all have to say. Let's go to Wild Paul, then we'll tag in Board Elon.
I just can't wait until we're not talking about these two groups as being in two completely separate ecosystems that aren't actually playing together. Man, I can't wait until that day where Wildcard or some other game, just to, but just to use Wildcard as an example, has millions of people playing and thousands of people coming in with whale money to participate in that ecosystem. This happens in pro sports all the time. I don't know why we can't seem to envision a world in which these two audiences come together. And Wildcard has been envisioning that future since the beginning. We've been trying to picture this kind of global ecosystem where these different user cohorts, as we call them, to get complicated or whatever. But when we talk about whales, those there are games that and economies and ecosystems where those users can come together productively and actually have the different kinds of fun that they want to have, right? So like, when Jerry talks about like, well, I had fun playing that game, I don't he's not necessarily talking about like I had fun because I was down on the field competing in a really fun game like Valorant or like Wildcard, but he's probably talking about I have fun making money, which is fun too. And the truth is, those things are they're coherent. They can go together, and I'm looking forward to those games and ecosystems. And I hope Wildcard is one of them where we prove that that's true.
He's so good at getting me fucking fired up about Wildcard.
I know, dude. Every time I'm like, oh God, give it to me. Bordelon.
I think Paul is right, and both of these groups should exist. And I think that Paul is going to do a very good job of sequencing this correctly and having the proper ratio between whales and users. Because the whales in a silo, in a vacuum, all talking to themselves and all extracting value, that doesn't last very long. And I think it's very important to be very like clear about what a whale is in this space in crypto. If you're Ferrari or some luxury company and you're selling cars for $1 million and your margin is like 90%, that's very impressive when you win over whales. When you have whales in crypto who are putting $5 million into your ecosystem and expecting to get $5 million back and probably more, you're not really selling anything, right? You're holding someone's money for a bit of time and your volume is very high. And this is kind of why transaction volume is bullshit as a metric. Like it's a complete vanity metric that doesn't actually show the health of a business. So yes, like you're good at getting attention. You're good at getting very rich people to part with their money temporarily with the full expectation they're going to get it back, but you don't actually have a real business at hand. And so I think with something like Wildcard, with what Paul is building, I'd like to see 100-to-1 ratio, right, of real players, of people on the field, people in the stands who are enjoying the game, and then somebody who looks like a team owner, right, who buys the teams and who adds value to the ecosystem and puts down capital, contributes to that and makes it better. But I have no interest in like watching all the owners of every NBA team get into a room and play basketball with each other. That's not fun. I want players and fans first, and then we'll get the owners in.
Yeah, bored. Dude, it's my favorite thing. Sorry to jump in, but it's my favorite thing that, we've been envisioning this and talking about this for a couple of years. And we're finally at the point now where other folks have been hearing us long enough and are like really able to like describe that back to us in terms of what we're trying to do. And I just love that that idea is starting to become more well understood. I can't wait to ship the things that we're shipping later this year so people can see it. Cause it's like, we just want to show, not tell. But anyway, thanks, man.
me and Katie are debating in real life whether or not Paul's gonna leak alpha accidentally, and it's cracking me up, man. Let's go to Lems, and then Knock will get the final word before we move on from this topic.
Yeah, one thing I'll say is that we all have our personal biases and what we consider success, but I don't think we should be judging what other people consider a success. It should be like, what's the company's goal and what is their measure of success? That's what matters. Blast never gave a shit, or like Blur as well, like Pac-Man, they never gave a shit about new users coming in. They even said when like they launched the Blur marketplace, OpenSea could have the new people to crypto. They didn't give a shit. They're like, we want all the power users, and that is success for them. I think, there's a lot of valid points Board made about the Ponzi structures of like, a whale puts 5 million and wants to get more than that back out and wants a return. But I do think there's definitely a place in crypto for risk versus reward. Some people will lose, some people will gain. And if you're better at playing the game, you will win more money. And at the end of the day, I think that is success for what they've done, despite our personal biases and what we consider to be success. And we want, great games and all these things to bring in new users and have adoption. But in terms of Blast's goals, I think they hit them.
Dude, Lems is the co-host with the most for that exact reason. He's so good at centering us back on the actual ethos of the topic. Knock, you get the last word, then we move on.
Yeah, I think a lot of the times when we chat about what the role of a blockchain should be, I get like whiplash. Sometimes we have conversations about how the goal should be to bring in new users, and other times it's to kingmake and to make the best, put marketing behind the best dApps on the ecosystem. Sometimes it's the role of a publisher. And then you look at a blockchain that brought in all of the money in crypto to their ecosystem and allowed everybody who's building a dApp to have a piece of that all of that money that came in through the incentivization that they built in natively to the Blast ecosystem. And then we go, Blast didn't do a good enough job or it wasn't successful. Is that true? Or is it the dApps on that network fucking sucked and didn't do a good enough job of keeping the attention post the incentivized juice? Blast did exactly what they were supposed to do. They brought the fucking users in, they brought all of the money to the ecosystem. They said, hey, everybody who's building, here's the piece of the pie. Here's literally every power user in the space. Go get them. Make something that makes them want to stay here and continue to use their product. And ultimately, they didn't. But from a blockchain perspective, they set up everybody within that ecosystem with literally the best chance that any blockchain has ever set people up with and said, go after it. I don't think that's on them to create the dApps. They did their job. They brought in the users, they brought in the liquidity, they brought in the value. People have to be able to keep those users once they get there. And I think we have to like set expectations for what we expect chains to do, because it's either they need to bring in the users or it's they need to keep them there through building dApps themselves, but it can't be both. And Blast brought in the users.
Why can't it wait, why can't it be both? Like, this is that thing we always talk about of the graveyard of platform companies that goes back decades. Like, it's not Microsoft had to build the Xbox, but they also had to fund and build Halo, or none of it would have worked.
100%. But in that case, in Blast case, they have Blur, which is one of the most successful marketplaces of all time in a new, different vertical as well. They created a financialized product around NFTs that hadn't existed, to their credit. No, trading NFTs on Blast or on Blur is unlike trading NFTs in any other NFT marketplace. So they did have the platform first. Then they built the blockchain. Then they said, here are all the users to everybody else within the ecosystem. And then we're giving them shit because somehow that
No,
wasn't
oh no,
enough. I think that they
I
were
agree. That's
successful.
a great example of that. And I think you kind of made my point for me, or I made your point for you, or whatever. And I agree with that approach. But I just think that, like, it's not just I was just kind of pushing back on what you were saying. Like, it's just the dApps and the dApps. It's like, yeah, no, but they have to keep facilitating building the right things that set the example in their ecosystem. And yeah, I agree. Blur is a great example of that.
Yeah, I think, with this being gamified, obviously there's a focus on the gaming element of maybe they don't see themselves as a gaming chain, but if they do, I'm not impressed with the games that they manage to recruit personally. They might be good from a gambling perspective in a lot of ways. I think the Blast Gold uh, formula or idea or whatever of giving it to the dApps so that they can just distribute it to the users, I think that was a stroke of genius, and I think they were successful in a lot of ways. But if they wanted to attract a game that was going to be the killer app that brings people to the Blast chain for decades to come, I don't think they've found it yet, which doesn't mean that they won't. But if that's their metric of success, to go back to what Lem said, if that is their metric of success, I think they failed. If it's to have, thruster and element marketplace and shit, like, yeah, they did great, but that's not going to excite me personally. Ed Chang had the hand up. Curious what you wanted to chime in on.
Yeah, I fully agree with what you're saying, Doc. It's like you could argue that Blast has done like the hardest part of bringing all this liquidity and all these users to the chain. But I guess I just disagree with your statement that, hey, it's not their fault. It's the apps didn't deliver, because who actually like did this whole application process? Who filtered through all these things? Who gave these rewards to all these ecosystem teams? It's them. Like, and I come from a place where if I don't deliver and pick the right teams, is everybody else going to be like, well, you know what? It's not his fault, because it's the team's fault, right? And I don't agree with that, because part of that is the timing of it too, right? Like, if you're gonna juice all these incentives, if you're gonna do all this marketing, get people on chain, you're still implying that there's some stuff and great stuff for them to do and value to get out of it, right? And I think Board was talking about this earlier. It's like the timing was kind of out of whack with like bringing all this liquidity in and not having great apps ready, and that's a problem that all chains, L1s and L2s, run into sometimes, that we've seen as well. Like, things just take a long time to build. So I don't know if I agree that, like, hey, they did their part, everybody else didn't deliver, because it is a really freaking tough job to do both sides of it, like Paul was saying as well.
Great stuff, guys. I expected that topic to be interesting, but I think it actually was really compelling in a lot of different ways. We covered a lot of different aspects of that debate. Best of luck to Blast going forward. I'm not a hater. I use some of the experiences. I want them to succeed, but again, depends on what your measure of success is. We're gonna move on to what's the biggest deal Avalanche is absolutely cooking. Speaking of chains, especially gaming chains, they just announced Solo Leveling, which is a huge anime webtoon, I think is the term that weebs use. Shout out to my weebs. Konami having an NFT marketplace. Maplestory obviously being on the chain, and Off the Grid now in closed beta, which people have been really excited about. My question for the panel: what is the biggest deal? Solo Leveling is coming along with 26 major webtoons. They're going to start with Solo Leveling as a debut IP and potentially bring in some of those other webtoons. Quote, the platform will be maintained for future use and bringing more webtoon and K-pop IPs to the Web3 space, unquote. Konami announced that they're going to be migrating their NFT marketplace over. We also know Maplestory obviously is here. And these are three different major Web 2 brands coming into the Web 3 ecosystem. But I'm also curious if the panel puts more emphasis on that, or if they're more excited and think it's a bigger deal that Off the Grid is now in closed beta being played. And from what I've seen, has been like universally accepted as like actually a good game. I don't want to, obviously I'm biased. I only see, anecdotal things, but people seem to actually be enjoying the game. What is the bigger deal between those four things? Wild Paws, they hand up first.
It's hard to say. I haven't played Off the Grid myself yet, but man, I love hearing that that's what people are saying about it. It can kind of feel a little lonely, as you guys know, with Wildcard, and a lot of things that, as we were talking about earlier, that aren't real, that aren't necessarily great games. And so we're always looking for other projects that are willing to say we're a crypto game or crypto project, and that are also something that, like, as a Web 2 gamer, we would want to tell our friends about and that they could get excited about. So I'm excited about that. But I think the biggest deal is K-pop, because if you can convince that that culture, that ecosystem to become like huge fans of crypto, there's probably not a more enthusiastic audience in the entire world. So if that works and that ends up bringing a whole bunch of people from that community into Web3, that's going to be the biggest deal.
Katie disagrees with you and says Swifties. You missed that one. I'm going to send it over to Johnny Casamacina.
Off the Grid is a super big, ambitious project that I think really, going back to one of the previous conversations earlier, about bringing, I think Paul mentioned, like, bringing different audiences into the same ecosystem that have different kind of conceptual ideas of what the game is. That's what's actually going to build a stacked and tiered and multi-dimensional ecosystem. If you look at what they're doing, what Godzilla is doing with that game, right? There's an investment profile there for the use of their node system, and how players, from the Web3 world are really going to kind of play the market and help build the ecosystem and benefit from that from a financial perspective. And then, yeah, there's an amazing game that they built that's going to go out to a massive market to bring in players to play on that ecosystem. So, I think, like, it's a really good example of a super huge multi-dimensional project that has a lot of great things going for it. It really kind of might set the stage of what we're looking for, almost like a beacon of like how those audiences can merge and live in the same ecosystem. And aside from that, I will say it is nice to see Konami coming into the space. They're just a super, they're such a long legacy. They know how to survive and adapt. They've always kind of taken the plunge and been innovative over the years. So they're one to watch as well.
Sinjin, I'm going to tag you in next, brother. What's the bigger deal out of these for you?
The biggest deal by far is Maplestory. I mean, you guys can be blinded by whatever, like, flashy, whatever thing you're looking at, but Maplestory Universe is solving issues that they had with the original Maplestory, Web 2 kind of system in terms of economies and stuff like that. And if they take it seriously, right, this is something that they have years of data on, years of modeling on, and they are, really stoked to, like, get into and solve issues, right? And this can really just take on a life of its own. Like, when we're talking at this level, Konami, Maplestory, and like, I mean, we're talking about games that are like publishers that are fantastic, who have, these like massive catalogs and backgrounds and so on and so forth. But in terms of, like, it's not just about the game at this point, because the game is a given, but like what they're really doing innovative in terms of like open economies and so on and so forth, I mean, you just got to give it to Maplestory.
I'm inclined to agree with you there, man. Mostly because I dated a Korean girl for 4 years who was absolutely obsessed with Maplestory for her entire childhood, and I realized that that's like World of Warcraft for like 500 million people. Jerry, over to you.
Can people? Isn't MapleStory the one that people are trying to play today, but it's like blocked in every region? Am I right about that or wrong?
Yeah, we actually had somebody ask us to potentially cover that. I'm not sure if we're going to have time, but it is blocked in a lot of regions. Maybe Ed can speak to that a little bit. I'm not 100% sure, but it's yeah, like 50 maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be curious, like,
it's not the
why?
game. I think it's like the questing thing that they're doing.
Got it.
I don't have the exact reason why though. I know they released a statement today.
Okay. Well, I will reserve my answer and potentially be wrong another week, and defer on that topic. But I do agree with Sinjin. If that gets figured out, MapleStory has potential to be huge. I but also what Paul said, I think is very prescient in that, like, don't sleep on K-pop, right? They just did a few months ago, Overwatch 2 did a partnership with Les Seraphim. I don't know how to say it. I just know that every time I open up Overwatch, I had K-pop girls singing at me, and Overwatch fucking shot up the Steam sales chart, right? Where it normally sits outside of the top 100, it went into being a top game. Literally only during, I mean, it shoots up for any event, but it went way higher than it ever does during the K-pop week. So don't sleep on that. I think the biggest deal is that everybody I talk to cannot shut the fuck up about how good Gunzilla is or Off the Grid, which is a good thing. And people are actually finally all in on the same page for the first time that, like, we have a potential breakthrough hit here. And yeah, I mean, I think you can't discount how big that is. That everybody I talk to who's playing it is saying that it's comparable, and they can't wait for weekends to come so they can turn off COD and start playing off the grid instead. So I think that's huge.
Yeah, it is super, super exciting. Ed Chang had the hand back up. I would love for you to be able to touch on regions if you can, but if not, just jump into the topic.
Yeah, I would probably refer to that statement. That's the best that I could do in terms of regions, but just in general, I think the answer is yes. I mean, we had a discussion kind of a couple gamifieds ago about, what Jonah had brought up is crypto gaming dead? Are we all screwed? And I think my answer at the time was like, it feels so different from even when I first came into the space, right? Of like, what were the catalysts and the tailwinds here? And just the fact that we're talking about companies like Maplestory and Konami, OTG that has all these not just Web3 gamers, but Web2 gamers who are saying great things, like about a whole UA and influence, like all these things lined up that are extremely bullish. The app stores are playing somewhat nicer with crypto, like all these things. And I think at a certain point, we're all kind of frenemies here across all the chains because it kind of is good for the space for a game anywhere in Web3 to do really well, but you kind of don't want to do it too well. But I think we're all kind of rooting for some of these games to just do really well in general.
Yeah, 1,000%. Even if I wasn't obviously working with Avalanche, even Blast, I'm rooting for. I just want people to be successful so that this industry can continue to have jet fuel injected into all these games that are trying to be the next big hit and hopefully have Web3 be mass adopted. Knock, I'm sending it over to you, bro. What's the bigger deal?
It's funny that Ed said yes because my answer was going to be yes. We had a conversation a couple of months ago, similarly related. I think it was around the announcement of MapleStory coming to Avalanche, and my take then was, it really doesn't matter until it does, and boy, does it ever matter now. They have been able to continue to bring in top tier talent. When you're talking about studios the size of like Nexon and Netmarble and Konami, these aren't like small mom and pop shops. These are legacy companies with legacy brands in their portfolio that people grew up and have been playing for the last 20 years. These are majorly important brands that have continued to choose Avalanche. I want to see them continue to develop. I want to see them continue to get bigger within that space. But this is a team that just keeps delivering. They said, hey, we brought in, Maplestory. We're going to bring in 2 other giants in the region. Hey, we're doing something with Off the Grid. We believe that they're going to be great, and more and more people are getting their hands on that game, and people are enjoying it, and it's a ton of fun. And I've had the opportunity to speak to that team, and they are just crazy with the things that they want to achieve in the space, and it sounds like they're going to be able to do it. And then you bring in things like solo leveling and the K-pop and just real cultural moments to the chain. I don't think that can be overlooked. I mean, League of Legends built a K-pop group that has literally billions of listens on Spotify, and there are 4 characters from the League of Legends game. They're not even real fucking people. It is massive. It is a huge cultural moment. Avalanche is like tackling all of the big culturally relevant giants within Asia, and they're managing to bring them in, and I want to see them continue to do well. So a couple months ago, it didn't matter. Definitely matters because we're starting to see the execution of the teams that they brought in. Every piece of this is just a massive fucking W, and testament to Ed, his team, and the broader Avalanche team for what they've been able to achieve.
Yeah, big shout out for also the T1 activation that I fangirled over. Getting Faker anywhere near blockchain was like the coolest moment of my entire life. Big shout out for that as an esports fan. Shredding the icy slopes of innovation, Avalanche is set to unleash a flurry of groundbreaking excitement, transporting the beloved game Maplestory, which I'm sure you guys have never heard of, into the glacial realms of Web3, promising to plant its cherished saga in the permafrost of Web3 tech and aiming to create a snow-kissed utopia. As our sponsor, they proudly wear the crown as the official blockchain of Gamified. And built on Avalanche is Shrapnel, where each interaction is an avalanche of adrenaline, every kill a snowstorm of skill. And by the way, STX 3.1 is live right now, so as you listen to this space, make sure you boot it up and Quest along with Moku, earn that Shrap, exchange that to metal, setting the stage for future awards in their ecosystem. Plus, their Lunatics game is not only on Discord already, you can play it on Telegram in the future, so lock, load, and launch into the fray with Shrapnel, which is powered by none other than Stardust, the interstellar official infrastructure of Gamified. This cosmic conduit isn't just a tool, it's a galaxy of genius, a white label warp drive, weaving the straightforward simplicity of Web 2 into the star-studded sophistication of Web 3, navigating the nebula of over 150 chains and harnessing the power of every single EVM, including Avalanche. Stardust operates as the supreme starship steward in your game's in-game gold and galactic guardian of your gamers' games. Jesus Lord. Big thanks to our sponsor, Stardust, the official infrastructure of Gamified. We're jumping into the next topic. Launch now or later. Hunter Solaire put out a thread this week saying games are scared to launch tokens right now. Many valuations are down 50%. Farmers are angry. Teams feel lost, etc. We saw Pirate Nation holding up the best of the recent launches, still up from their initial launch price, currently at an $87 million market cap, and at $185 million fully diluted value. Jesus, say that 5 times fast. AI Arena launched their token, and it's landed lower than most expectations, less than $5 million market cap and under $50 million fully diluted value. We're seeing a lot of delays and advisors recommending people not launching right now. Do you agree with this take, or should organizations take this as an actual opportunity to release a token at a realistic valuation that they can build from instead of an overhyped one that'll lead to disappointment over time? Sinjin had the hand up first.
Yeah, so if you're a project that is basically a vaporware thing and you're like whatever 4 to 6 to a year off of an actual beta, right? Listen to your advisors, right? You're not going to do yourself any good by shooting yourself in the foot, because the only good thing that you have going for you is the speculation and the fact that no one knows what the fuck you're actually doing. But if you have a game and you're ready to go, fuck it, man. Launch that motherfucking token and get in the game, because at the end of the day, if you can actually get revenues, gaming has never been like about the markets. It really is recession proof if the game is good. So fuck it, man. Go for it. Because if you're a real fucking developer, that's all you want. You want to launch your game and get into the market. Because a lot of these games, if they're multiplayer and stuff like that, the hardest lift becomes that. It doesn't matter like how great the game is. If you don't have players playing, like you could create a game like Fortnite and you put it at 100 players, but if you never get 100 players actually playing the game, you never see how good it can actually be. So it's kind of the long view, but the token will reflect that afterwards. Why? Because it will be about fundamentals. No matter what the narrative is, the fundamentals will brute force the rest of it the way through.
Great stuff, Sinjin. And real quick, I see Blitz in the audience asking, did you guys do the beacon topic in the first 30 minutes because he wasn't able to make it for that section? No, you didn't miss it. We're still going to do that up next, which I'm really excited to dive into, find out all the reasons that I'm probably wrong. Wild Paul, I'm tagging you in next. Your thoughts, should people be launching now or later?
I so agree with Sinjin, and I want to take it even further. So it really, you just got to look at these teams and you got to like try to ask yourself, like, well, what are their goals? If you're trying to launch a token so you can cash out and, just get this parabolic thing to magically happen, and so you can like be like, sweet, we did it, we got our money, bye. Then yeah, probably don't do that. This is not the right environment to do that. But if you're trying to build a product and a great game and a long-term ecosystem, the way I look at that, the way we're approaching that, it just look at what we're doing with Wildcard, the game itself, right? Like we have this incredible opportunity these days that wasn't there back when we were building Age of Empires, because there was no such thing as Discord and there was barely even the internet. But nowadays, we can onboard a community and have that community playtesting alongside us, helping us make the game better and helping us truly deliver something that everyone is going to love. I mean, we were just talking about Gunzilla Off the Grid. They're doing the same thing. They got their closed beta. They're listening to their feedback. They're using their community to help improve the game. My favorite game right now that's doing that is Hades 2 in early access. They just put out a great patch actually while Gamified was like, can't wait to go play that. Anyway, in that world, getting the token live and beginning to play test the protocol is just as important as getting the game live. Like it's another step along that journey. And if the teams that have that goal, which is, for instance, Wildcard's goal as well, then it's not about this like, hey, we're just looking at this thing as this financial moment, and we're this opportunity for some token to go parabolic or whatever. It's actually just a step along the way of building a great product in an ecosystem and playtesting and iterating and refining that product for the long-term success. I think for that reason, it makes a lot of sense, but not where, we're unfortunately surrounded by 90% of the teams doing the other thing and just trying to cash out, which gives it a bad kind of taste in our mouths.
Well said, Paul. Real quick aside, I forgot I have 5 Moku whitelists today in the chaos of the space being completely broken for the first 20 minutes. Just completely got lost in the shuffle. So this gives me a great opportunity to surprise and delight some of our amazing listeners. Let's give the first 2, we've got 5, to Yap and Jaxie. Anybody that gives us a retweet between now and the next topic, because everybody's going to hate me after I shit on the beacon, we're gonna give them one too. Jaxie and Yap, congratulations. Let's tag in Lems, then we'll go to Jerry.
All right, I'm going to be a little bit contrarian. I generally agree with what Sinjin and Paul said, but I will say you have to take account what's happening in the market. Trying to time the market perfectly for your launch is an impossible task that no one can ever achieve. But I have this conversation with teams regularly, even when they want to launch an NFT collection. They want to just launch a collection because everyone else is doing it. They're hot right now. They're like doing well, and they have nothing to really support it afterwards. It comes back to a conversation which we've had on this panel many times about them being live ops products. Are you ready to manage the live ops part of having a token or NFT live? Because in some cases, you could be like subject to significant challenges. If you've done a pre-sale or something on a token or a public sale, and there's a certain valuation, and your token like launches and then quickly falls below that pre-sale price, you're trying to manage sentiment and deal with all that kind of BS right now. And if you have the option to hold off for a couple of months, you should probably go with that option. I do think what Sinjin said, like, hey, if you're like raising now to launch the token now and your game's not ready for like 12 months, there's no reason for you to do it now. You can definitely wait. But even if you have the product, I still think you have to manage what your previous raise valuations were. And if you did a pre-sale or anything like that, because that sentiment is going to affect you longer term. And it's harder to dig back out of that after you fall below that valuation. So you don't want to, try and launch into a bloodbath. That doesn't necessarily mean that you need to be like, where the market is back to being euphoric again before you launch. But if your best case scenario is, oh, I launch my token now and hopefully it flatlines, it's not really a great look, as opposed to choosing, okay, the market, it's, there's some more appetite coming in, there's more volume coming in, that sort of thing. And you can slowly grind upwards. A point you made, Sam, on the opener, which I thought was really good, was, can you take this opportunity to launch at a realistic valuation right now? You can still take that opportunity to launch at a realistic valuation when the market conditions are a little bit better and there is more appetite for gaming tokens. You don't always have to choose a high valuation. And I think that's a thing that people have done over the last few months when the market was really hot for gaming. I saw several stories of people saying like, oh, we were going to launch at this valuation, but we decided to like 2x it just because the market's hot. There was no fundamental reason to like double the valuation, but they just did it just because they felt like they could. And sometimes even token warrants where people were getting half as much tokens as compared to the equity versus what they would have got originally, just because like, again, they're diluting the valuation because they think, oh, everything's really hot right now. It's better to leave some upside on the table for whoever's buying and your community coming in, because that's what Web3 is about getting people to share in your success. And if you basically take that off the table and then the market goes down and then everyone's down bad, everyone's losing and you're just in max extractive state.
Lems is on a heater today, baby. Look out, he's coming for that MVP today. Shady Shiba says if we had to play a drinking game of take a shot every time Wild Paul says wild card, we would all be in the hospital. Just hilarious. Jerry, let's go to you, then we'll tag in Knock.
Dude, yeah, Lems for MVP, and like one of the things he said, I just want to piggyback off quickly, and that's give your community some upside, right? Because that is the biggest way to win a massive, rabid amount of fans in the space. And if you do so, if you give your community upside, you win, right? And you buy yourself time. One thing I think is crazy is people are talking about this like we're in a fucking brutal bear market. Like Bitcoin is still doing well, right? A year ago, we were having different conversations. Bitcoin is in the fucking toilet. Solana was in single digits. And we're looking at a 60K Bitcoin. I haven't looked at charts today, whatever it's at, right? And we're going to call this a bear market, right? And people are afraid to launch tokens. It's a little silly because overall, the crypto market is in a different place than when gamified started, right? So to say that the market's not good and it's a bad environment to launch a token in, I think is a little crazy. I think these teams haven't thought about what happens when I launch a token. And we have one team that clearly did, and that's Pirate Nation. And look at the performance of their token, right? You can use it now, you can spend it, you can increase improve your game experience with it. They made the terms of staking so good that you couldn't do it. You didn't want to dump it. Compared to every other team or most other teams, we've seen launch tokens and then ask what next, right? You're taking a core tentpole of your business and you don't have a plan for it. And it's like launching a game, like what Lem said, it's a live ops product. It's like launching a game and having zero groundwork done for like a first patch or a season 1. It's crazy. And if anybody came up here and talked about their game that way, we would shout them off this panel. But we allow people to do that with tokens, and we don't celebrate the people who are doing a good job of that. So if you're a Pirate Nation, if you've been laying the groundwork for that for, a year or two, give it that hawk to it and get some shit done, But if you're every other team, think of a plan and get a plan in place.
Give it that hawk to and get it done. Oh man! Plus, I'm laughing. Also, I tried to pin it up. Oh yeah, there it is. It loaded finally. Phil had a great meme in the comments. He says, "Knock," or I said, "Knock gets the last word," and then the panelists, and it's a picture of like 10 hands go up as soon as I say "gets the last word," which always seems to happen. But I love you guys in spite of it. I'm gonna give Phil one of those Moku whitelists as well. Shout out to Phil. Knock, tagging you in, big dog.
I love Jerry for being able to just weasel that in there at the back of half of a really strong point. Um, I'll say something that I've been telling teams launching NFTs for the last 2.5 years. For a good team, the macroeconomic conditions are a matter of how much and how many. How much can you raise? How many people will participate? How much social coverage will you get? But it's never going to fundamentally change your ability to go to market with an NFT sale or a token sale or a game feature because you're a strong team. You've got fundamentals, you've built community. It's a question of how much and how many. For bad teams, macroeconomic conditions are a matter of life and death. If you're a shitty team, do not fucking launch now because you're going to die and your one chance to be extractive and fuck off is going to go away with this market. And you should probably wait a little while. If you're a good team and you've set the foundations and you have strong fundamentals and you know what you're doing and you're talking to the right people, I've said this for the last 2.5 years. I'll continue to say it. The only thing the broader market will change is whether or not that raise looks like $200,000 for an NFT sale or $500,000 for an NFT sale. Either way, you're going to walk away with a sizable amount of money. You're going to get assets into the users that you want into their hands, the users that you want to have those assets, and you're going to continue building your business because you are not beholden to market conditions. For bad teams, you're going to have a real fucking bad time launching in a market like this. So again, good teams, matter of how much and how many. For bad teams, it's literally a matter of life and death.
Please, if you're a bad team, don't listen to Knock. Just launch right now. Slow trickle to zero. Don't take any liquidity with you, and fuck off. Over to Sinjin, who I'm sure will double down.
You know, if you're launching your token and you're fundraising or you're being extractive in any way, right, and you're obviously playing the speculative game, right, then obviously you have to play where the market's at. So, you know, I understand that. But for certain projects like our project, we're launching a full on, you know, game utility token. There's nothing security about our thing, right? And I want to launch whenever the game's ready to go, because at the end of the day, the live ops is not really just live ops in terms of promotions for the token, but if that token is fully integrated into our game economy, then the game is what drives it. And I want to be in the biggest fucking bloodbath so I can bathe in all of it, drink it all up, and then any motherfucker that comes when the market starts to raise, I'm just gonna fucking eat them up, right? And you know, it's the different mentality is that, like, even with your own shareholders or with your community, I mean, are you going just to eat like a fucking rat for whatever scraps to survive and get fat? Or are you going to Valhalla and fucking, you know, doing this for the asymmetric returns here, right? Rather than having another fucking chance to kind of go at it and extend your runway or whatever bullshit that you're here for, right? I'm not saying that's bullshit. I mean, I understand people want to be peons and people look for opportunities and everything else like that. And they want to, you know, get their fucking nut, right? But for the teams that really, and I won't say it's good teams or bad teams or whatever, but like they're passionate about why they're here. And, you know, we've had this debate in like Wolves Down on Telegram and stuff like that, where there are certain Web3 founders that come from very, very reputable backgrounds who have stepped away from Web3. And, you know, people are like, why the fuck are they stepped away? And then maybe they're going to come back, or they have come back, and fuck these guys. Like, they fucking left us high and dry. And I said, if they did come back and they had a great game and, you know, in the end their token did very well and your NFTs went up, would you really blame them, right? And they're like, well, probably not, right? And I said the reason why is because a lot of the guys who are really going for those asymmetric returns and being here and in kind of a sense of like innovation and really pushing the envelope, their idea of what the NFT is and tokens is really different than what the market is, right? And in some ways, there's a lot of disillusionment with Web3 founders. Is like, you know, I'm doing something that I think will be revolutionary for our community and really change the industry as a whole. And you guys just keep saying when moon, right? And I get that, and I'm trying to manage that, but it's just fucking like degrading my mental health. For me, I don't give a fuck. You know, like honestly, I hate all of you. I love you on some level, but I hate most of you anyways. So my mental health is fine, but like, you know, fuck it, man. You got a good game, you're gonna fucking go for it, and you should, because you should be in this space for the asymmetric gains.
Hate you and love you too, big dog. Can't put it better myself. NSA is gonna win the next Moku whitelist for the retweet. Appreciate everybody that's been jumping on that. We've got one more, so make sure you comment, drop a retweet before the end of the space. But we're jumping in to the cornerstone topic of the day. I think this is the one that people have been, especially anybody that's been to war on at war on Twitter over the last few days has been looking at this. The War of the Wolves, the Beacon edition. The Beacon announced a mint for 0.115 ETH, which is about 400 US dollars, and a $10,000 or 10,000 supply for the NFT collection. This is after releasing a time-gated open edition in 2022, which was $40, that ended up with a total collection size of 45,000 NFTs. My opinion has been on Twitter that this new collection is too high in supply and in price and probably will not mint out. For the record, I am rooting for them. I hope that they do. My gut reaction was that is not good for this market. It's not going to be a good fit. If I was advising them, I probably would say wait, to reference the earlier topic. Peyton, the founder of the Wolves DAO, says he isn't sure if it will do well. He wrote a thread about this, but he wants to support them. He will mint it because they're good founders building a real product, and points out that people will ape $1,000 in USD easily on a token pre-sale without a second thought, which I think is valid. And then Spark C, the head of research at the Wolves DAO, says that the math checks out, so it should mint out. For context, they've said about 18% of the token supply will go to asset holders, not exclusively holders of just this NFT. And in general, the financialization around this NFT in particular has been really, really aggressive. It is basically all they're talking about, which raises some concerns around the Securities Act and all those things as well, but we're going to kind of set that aside for right now. The team has said they purposefully are only raising through investors for equity, and investors don't actually have a token warrant, so that's supposed to mean that the token should be even more valuable, I guess. My illustrious panel, whose side are you taking on the War of the Wolves? Is it me, Peyton, or Spark C? Mr. Wild Paul had the hand up
I
first.
need some more information that, I could just Google, or I could just get here on stage and ask everyone, do we know if this team is US based or international? Because like we talked about the last Gamified, pretty much everything they're doing goes against all the legal advice that I've ever heard about how to do these kind of things.
I'm pretty sure they're offshore.
Okay. If they're completely offshore and they're not subject to those rules, then yeah, fuck it, let's ball.
Wild Paul says, let's ball. Knock, what say you?
Kind of goes back to the last topic, right? Good teams are going to be able to raise regardless of the market, and I think that that's true for the Beacon. They've crushed it over the course of the last couple of years. I was totally enamored with like their original go-to-market campaign. The game is good, people love it. They're going to be able to raise money. Will they be able to raise $3.3 million? I don't necessarily believe so. I think that just based off of like rough data that I can pull and that we've seen, that would be the single largest NFT raise for a game in the last like 18 months. It's up there with all raises across all NFTs over the course of the last 12 months in terms of total volume. If you look at Arbitrum's 30-day NFT volume, it's less than they're trying to raise with this single mint and this single activation. So I think that they've got a lot of the cards are stacked against them here. It's a really ridiculously large amount. On one hand, though, it's not necessarily a true NFT mint, right? A lot of people are viewing this as an NFT mint with a token side warrant, which is an interesting way to approach it. And maybe this is hyper successful, and maybe this is a new meta, and we start seeing teams launch things like this with a similar structure. I don't know. I probably don't think so. I think this team's probably going to be able to walk away with $1 million, maybe $1.5 million. I would be shocked if they're able to pull off the full $3 million. I think that is a absolutely like astronomically large number, especially given what we've seen over the course of the last 2 years. But if they do it, more power to them. And I think people should probably stop doubting the Beacon because they just continue to do shit nobody thinks is possible.
Yeah, well said, Knock. Just for additional context, because you mentioned that this would be the biggest raise for gaming in quite a while publicly, Overworld minted a 2100 NFT collection, if I remember correctly, at 0.15 ETH during, in my opinion, a much better time for gaming in the market. Everybody also looked at that, in my opinion, as a token warrant. That was a pretty strong narrative. We all knew a token was coming. It's been confirmed since then. But the fact that they decided to mint 0.15 and only a 2100 collection, even though they knew for a fact that they could have done more probably, and then obviously it like skyrocketed up to 1 ETH. This is another situation where it's like leave some on the table for your community to actually do well, which I'm going to send it over to Jerry to see if he says the same thing after I kind of stole his thunder.
You did steal an exact talking point of mine, so how dare you? But I wanted to take us back to late last year when we all said that Exteria wasn't going to do well. Well, I didn't say that, but many people did, and many people faded Exteria, Exteria and Overworld. And then 30 seconds after the mint, everybody freaked out because they couldn't mint one, and they FOMO'd. And what did that kick off? Really short NFT bull run where everybody got a mint out and everybody tried. I mean, like, who didn't try to do a mint at that time? Everybody started to calculate one, right? And we would have never known if a team didn't play chess while everybody else was playing checkers, right? And I think you have to support that, because in a lot of ways, I don't, the numbers don't, I don't like the numbers either. I'm with Team Sam on that, but I'm with Team Peyton on the fact that we don't know what happens until they press the button and they go forward with it. And if it does go well, everybody here is going to change their opinion and everybody's going to change their strategy. And we'll look at the Beacon as being the team that led that. And they're, I think, one of the first teams that really started to knock out the Web3 go to market and do a good job with that, right? When they released their game, a couple years ago, I think it was. And they did a good job. So, put me in the camp of, I don't know how it's going to turn out, but I do want to speak with my wallet and I do want to support a team that's done historically very well and is taking a chance to do something different. And if it goes well, I will tell all you fuckers I was right.
Blitz in the audience says, correction, Sam Stefanina, 18% of the token is going to WOP holders, which is rite of passage, the NFT that we're talking about. And then 1% is going to pets. But that doesn't really make sense to me because there's, I believe, 4,000 pet NFTs that are all worth like $1,300 right now. So why in the world, how would this not eviscerate the pets collection? Why would I not dump that to buy 3 of these if all the token is going to that? Maybe, again, I'm just uneducated on this, but the numbers just don't feel good. And I think that this is something that gets lost. And there's a collection of people that do the math, the whales on Blur and Blast and stuff. And then there's a collection of people that invest and buy things that feel good because they like to do the thing that it enables, or it just feels good to support the team or whatever. And you can't overbank on the fact that everybody's going to do the math. Everybody's going to read 400 Discord announcements and know every single aspect of the NFT. It's just not how people function, in my opinion. So I would add that layer to it of like, sometimes you just have to do the thing that feels good for the audience. Knock, I'm tagging you in because I saw you throw the thumbs down at some point towards Jerry.
Yeah, it was less at towards Jared, more at all of the very ill-informed teams who will see the Beacon be successful if they are successful and go, oh, it's open season on NFTs. Now I can go raise 600K. No, you can't. The Beacon is, if they pull this off, is like an incredible position. They have a dedicated user base. They're deeply tied into the Magic and the Treasure ecosystem. They've been around for 2 years. They're not like a run-of-the-mill team that just popped up out of nowhere and chose to go live with a $3 million raise. The other thing that I wanted to mention was that even the Exterio comp is incredibly different than what we're talking about today. Like, the market today is nearing all-time lows. What we've seen over the course of the last 90 days specifically is not a bad market for NFTs. It is one of the worst, if not the single worst market we've ever seen for NFTs, both on the primary and the secondary sale. NFT volume is in the absolute dumpster, below the dumpster, whatever that might be. This is not the exterior market. The exterior market was a little soft, and it was a really well-respected team that did an excellent job of go-to-market, and they raised a couple $1 million because they executed well in a soft market. This isn't even a soft market. This is a terrible market. This is one of the worst we've ever seen. If they pull this off, kudos to them. It'll be like a true spectacle, something that we probably won't see again. But it is definitely not open season for everybody else to go and try and raise millions of dollars worth of NFT sales. We say this time and time again. The absolute best of the best in this space should not be markers for like middle of the pack teams as to whether or not the ecosystem is doing well. Would be a true like once in a cycle type of mint, and I don't think it means anything for the broader NFT market. Like, the Beacon's not going to bring NFTs back.
Great stuff, Knock. I want to tag in Sinjin.
So I'm not going to say whether they're going to make it or not. In fact, I think they're hoping to make it because I think what they've decided is, fuck it, we ball and we're going to go for fucking broke, right? Because it doesn't kind of make sense. So what I mean by that is that they've been around for a couple of years. They're definitely Web3 native. They know the space, they know the legalities, and yet they are fucking going balls to the wall and going out there, right? And if they have any fucking Americans and if they are successful, good luck. You step in Guam, you're fucking bye-bye, the long arm of the US is a fucking long fucking arm, right? but they don't give a shit at this point. And even the amounts that they're doing here, it just seems like they are trying to raise as much as they can raise. Whatever they end up with, that's what they're going to get, and they're going to be happy with it. Maybe they've been happy with 2, but fuck it, we ball. We're going to go for 4 or whatever like that. So I think that they are, for whatever reason, maybe internal or whatever, because it's not legal, because obviously they're just fucking going for it. They've decided that, this is the time to raise. And what's also very interesting is that, having equity without a token warrant, or not being token, focused for like as a a SAFT or whatever like that, it's very interesting as well. And so in some ways, like, because the equity is not tied to tokens, in this particular case, it may just be a completely, and they've decided internally, this is just a fundraising exercise more than anything else like that. So I'm interested to see how much the goodwill and how much the reputation they are willing to kind of bank on to see how far this goes. But I would say, if you believe in the team, support them. If you don't think you're going to get much value out of this, which maybe you won't, because they're just kind of maximizing things, then whatever. But I think the feel is like, if you like this team, you want to fund this team, then go for it. But in terms of, is this a great investment for Web3 guys? I don't know. It's they're definitely going just to raise as much as they can.
I don't want to get ahead of myself, but it sounds like Team Sam is winning in the War of the Wolves. I wish Spark or Peyton was here to defend themselves. Jerry, going back to you, then tagging in Lems.
Yeah, I just want to, remind people that like having a mint that doesn't sell out doesn't mean a team is a failure, and it doesn't, like, we live in absolutes in the crypto world for some reason, and if they sell out half of it, or if they do only raise a mil, like, that's fine. We shouldn't write the project off for that. I don't know when that started, and I don't know why we do that in this industry, but like, it doesn't need to sell out everything for the project to still be successful and to still do well, right? What's going to happen on the timeline is, if it doesn't sell out, people are going to be like, they suck. Everybody's going to exit. Everybody's going to start panic selling their shit into WETH offers and stuff. And yeah, I think, like, we just need to move away from that, right? Like, selling out half is still a good thing. And, I'd say don't panic if they don't sell out, 10,000 of their NFTs. Like, it's fine.
Yeah, it's an age-old question of, if you do the thing where you're minting, you go, oh, we're not going to mint out. Okay, burn the rest of the supply. Or do you let them sit on the open market? Well, you can't do that, because then the floor price is always going to be below or at that, and it just kind of creates this sort of FUD bubble, whatever. Lems, I'm tagging you in, and then we'll go to Knock.
All right, so I'm going to just like rewind a little bit to the overworld, because I think that mint was actually, not a perfect analogy, but I think there was some interesting things. So I think you mentioned it was 2,100 NFTs, Sam, but that was the actual mint. The pre-sale was close to 4K, because it was actually a 6K collection. They minted a 0.15 ETH, and that was $300 US at the time. And to Knox's point, yes, like, they were a different team, and like, they had a bit of, like, it was kind of a soft market. Things were starting to warm up, but like, there had been no good paid mints at that point that were having, like, in the premium price tiers, we'll call it. Like, Tom from Games Lab, who's in the Wolves, was analyzing it beforehand, and had said, if this minted out, it was going to, like, basically topple 91% of mints in 2023 or something like that. It was like a huge number, and they came and sort of set the new trend on pre-sales and that sort of thing. I'm not saying that Beacon is going to necessarily do that here, but I think it's interesting when we look at, this is a $400 mint. It's less like price in ETH, but ETH has gone up since last November, so that's why it's $400 per NFT, and it is a larger collection size. I am guilty of having the knee-jerk reaction when I saw 10K at 0.115 mint. I was just saying to someone last week about, oh, it's so nice how we don't see 10K collections anymore. Typically, they're like 5K and under. But then, Beacon came out with this. I don't know, like, maybe they're playing 4D chess, like, like to Jerry's point there about supply, and Finjan as well. Maybe they cut the supply, and I actually don't think that's a bad thing. And we've seen previous projects that have cut supply and done very well afterwards. They don't maybe necessarily need to mint out this whole thing. This could be their goal and target, and then if they don't, they will cut the supply and like roll with it. I'm kind of on Team Peyton on this, where yes, they have a game. I kind of want them to win, but I'm not really sure it'll mint out. But as time has gone on and I've thought about it some more, I'm back more on the fence and leaning on Spark's side than I was more on your side before, Sam. Before, my knee-jerk reaction was, no way, this is going to work. But as I think about it, now they've actually disclosed a percentage of tokens. They didn't say a percentage of tokens at first. They just said, you will get an airdrop. And at that point, it's like you're just trusting they give you a good percentage and you've no idea what you're going to get. That's pretty much the game we play with NFTs right now. We're just doing it in a more like dressed up way where we pretend like we're buying them for some other reason, but really like they're glorified token vouchers in so many cases, and we don't have a percentage of tokens. And we're just hoping the team gives a good allocation and makes the community happy, and everyone is like a happy, good sentiment. Here, they're saying this is the percentage, this is what we're going to do. And you're basically getting a token pre-sale, but you're buying it like 6 months in advance, and they're getting a timeline. When people bought the Overworld mint, do you think people bought that for the game? No, they didn't. They bought it because there was a token drop that was coming later. They had said backed by Binance. It's going to launch in 2 months or whatever. Here we are. What is it? 8 months later now, and they still haven't dropped the token. So you can give credit to Beacon for saying like, hey, we're being transparent about saying like we are not trying to raise from VCs. We're trying to give to the community. We have a playable game already. Even when they minted the collection in 2022, open editions weren't popular at that time, and they did a 45K collection they minted out for $40 a piece. Like they raised a couple $1 million from that as well. So I mean, I got to give credit where credit's due. They bucked the trend at that point and did their own thing. It's going to be really interesting to watch how this plays out. I'm not sure if I'm going to mint. I have a whitelist. I'm going to be watching from the sidelines. Maybe I'll mint. I do think it's an interesting thing. I wish them the best of luck. But I will say my mind has changed, and I'm not totally thinking that it's going to be a total flop at this point.
Appreciate that honesty and willingness to go against the grain. You're dead to me, but that's okay. One thing I want to point out, one thing I want to point out while we're using this as an example is the fact that, to Knox's point, the market was trending upwards whenever Overworld minted, and the market is trending aggressively downwards, especially with gaming. So the fact that people are acting as if people are going to just happily hold this for 9 months, assuming that the market is going to be in an equal or better place by then, feels to me a little bit ignorant. But at the same time, I respect that point of view, and I hope everybody's right, because that would be great for me in the space. Knock, you threw the thumbs down at some point. Over to you, and then we'll tag in Sinjin again.
Yeah, I got 2 words for the panel and for everybody listening, and it's survivorship bias. We use Overworld as an example of a team who raised $2 million in a shit market because we can remember them because they survived. There are literally hundreds of teams who we can't even remember their fucking names because they tried to do that and they died. We talked about teams who cut supply during a mint because they didn't sell out and they survived, and we use Fableborn as the example. But Fableborn is an exception. There are thousands of fucking teams that launched an NFT collection, didn't sell out, and we don't remember their names because they died. You absolutely need to fucking sell out. You absolutely cannot go to market with a $3 million raise in a shitty fucking oh my god, in a shitty market and expect to have like some success. And just because like Overworld did it in the past, and just because other teams have survived without selling out their NFTs, does not mean that every team, or even most teams, or even some teams are going to be able to do this. If there's a team who fits the bill for the type of team who might survive a fuck it, let's raise what we can, and hopefully, the not selling out doesn't kill us. The Beacon fits the bill to a T. They're perfect. They're the perfect candidate for this type of strategy. But please, for the love of God, if you're listening to this and your team and you plan to go to market, do not go to market with the assumption that, fuck it, if we don't sell out, we don't sell out, because more than likely you're going to die. And we have a literal graveyard
Jesus.
of tens of thousands of projects over the course of the last couple of years who went to market, said, if we don't sell out, we don't sell out, and we don't remember their names anymore. Survivorship bias. These are teams that we use examples of because there are 1 or 2 or 3 of them that we remember, and they're like, wow, this was a great case, and we love these teams. And Fableborn and Overworld are awesome teams. They're great for the space. We want those types of teams to succeed. That is not the reality for the overwhelming majority. 99.99999%
Right.
of teams that raise and go to market will
But
die if they try that.
no, just in the context of the Beacon, whose side are you on? Because I'm either really offended at you for disagreeing with me, or I'm all in.
I'm on team watch what happens. I think if they can do it, great. I don't expect them to do it, is the honest answer. $3.5 million in this market seems ridiculous. I want to be proven wrong. I love that fucking team. I love the game. I love the artwork. I love everything about what they've done to this point. I don't love the decision to go to market in this market with a $3.5 million raise. If they can do it, great for them. I'll continue to support them. If they don't do it, I'm still going to continue to support them because I have a personal bias towards what they've been building, but I don't think it's a good idea.
I hope they can do it just so we can dance on your grave for once.
Yuga and the Beacon side by side for Knock. I just want to point out, Jerry, you asked what side he's on. He said earlier he expects 1 to 1.5 million to be raised, so that's about half of a mint out, I think, is what he's expecting, if I had to put a number to it. I don't want to hold his feet to the fire on that one. I really appreciated everything he said. I think it was very accurate and represented how I feel in just a significantly more articulate way, so you're dead to me for being better than me, Knock. Over to Sinjin.
Yeah, actually, I was gonna kind of come in with the kind of founder's take, and Nog said it, fantastic. I mean, he really articulated, like, if you're a founder, you're listening to this space, you listen to it again or whatever like that, right? No, you have to mint out, right? You absolutely do, because if you want any chance to move forward in the space and have attention and to look like you have any potential, it's going to be against the other ones who have either proven some type of formula or some kind of pathway of success. And if you don't meet that minimum criteria, you just can't move on. So everything that Nog said, I completely agree with. And I guess, actually, I would say that Knock is probably on Team Sinjin here and kind of like, let's see what happens. But in the same way, I also am rooting for Beacon. I think the team's great. I think, what they've done when they were on Arbitrum and going on their own chain and stuff like that, I think it's fantastic. I think they know what they're doing. And I do think they're going for broke, and I think they've decided, fuck it. Like, we're just going to fucking race here. And what's interesting, though, if you really dive into this, and I want to say that, like, you look at these teams and you think, like, okay, they figured it out and they know what they're doing. But the reality is nobody knows really what they're doing, right? Unless you're like number 2 of a new meta, which like the new meta happened and it was successful and you just came in right away. Everyone else doesn't really know what they're doing, right? And so, you get a token, but it's not a, like, it's the investors are not getting that token because they're only with equity, right? Then there's no obligation for the company or the project to divert revenues towards, buying back the tokens or whatever like that, because the investors don't get really anything out of that, right? I mean, that's obviously a securities point of view of, the use of the token, but I'm saying that that's kind of off the table, right? Or that's very optional, right? Unless it's purely on, whatever revenues that they put aside for marketing. That's another consideration. But I want to say something that I think probably Paul will agree with me on, is that for the founders who have been building for the last 2 to 3 years, 2.5, 3 years, right? I don't think the market affects us at all right now, because we're so close to releasing what we need to release into the market that we're not fazed by this at all. In fact, in some ways, I feel like, great, like, all the bullshit narratives have fucking finally really fucking died and been killed. And it's great that, like, a lot of like Web3 creators are getting existential crises that, like, they think it's not going to make it, because the reality is, all this fucking time, you guys have been talking on like one particular level, and the founders have been building on an entirely different mindset, right? And it's been this mindset of like getting to actual launch, right? The tokens, the NFTs, the speculation, the attention, the spaces, the community, and all this other stuff. Like, this is a construct of Web3 that benefits us in terms of like launching the game, right? But that launching of the game part is kind of like, post TGE, post like something like undiscovered country shit, right? But for us, that's what we fucking know. That's what we live for. The last 4 months, 5 months, all I've been doing is setting up marketing channels that have nothing to do with Web3, everything to do with the player personas that I'm looking at to like bring on to our particular game. And I'm excited as fuck, So yeah, I'll pass it off to Paul, but I'm pretty sure that he'll be in agreement with me. I haven't seen any other founders, like, of the founders I speak to, that are not fucking happy right now. We're all happy if we have our game and we've been building for the last couple of years.
Yeah, great stuff, Sinjin. Paul, over to you.
Oh my gosh, you Sinjin freaking nailed it. This is kind of what I was trying to say earlier. Like, as someone who, I mean, we feel we've got this great game on our hands that we've been working on for a long time. And now we also have these incredible other things that I can't leak because Katie is sitting across from Sam right now, and she'll literally run to the other room and punch me in the face if I start saying things I'm not supposed to. But as someone who's got those kind of aces in the hole, those birds in the hand or whatever, like this is actually kind of my favorite thing. And this is not like just new or novel to us either. Some of the greatest products that we all love the most were launched in the bear. Like they were, and I'm not talking about the bear of crypto. I just mean like the bear generally. Like they were launched in hard financial times, in recessions, etc. Like those opportunities, those environments tend to create, I think, that fertile ground for those phoenixes to arise from the ashes, and they just create so much upside. And not just, and I think what's interesting about crypto and about Web3 is, in this case, it's not just upside for the products and the companies. It's also upside for everyone involved, and for those who are paying the most attention and those who are getting involved and partnering with the right projects. And I think like what Lems was saying earlier, there's a much greater upside in these kind of environments than there are when you're launching in a raging bull and at the top, and then it's like scary, like to the flip side of what Sinjin was saying. Like when you're launching, let's just say, let's like rewind time, and you're a project that's launching 4 months after Axie is peaking or whatever. Like you only have to go. Like that's the only place you can go at that point, and that's a really, really terrifying, not fun environment for the founders and the entrepreneurs and the folks like Sinjin and me. This is actually, especially when and again, I know, like, since we're talking about Beacon, like it's this kind of selfish thing, because like, yeah, if we were in a situation where we were desperate to raise funds and it was the only way to survive, I guess it would be different. But for those projects that are building, are able to do that, don't necessarily have to raise funds from people who are also just hoping to extract value, and instead can launch a great product in that environment, it's actually the best place to be.
That was a banger, Paul. What a great way to end that topic. In addition, Maria from Fableborn had a great comment that I've completely lost because Twitter's in shambles and keeps refreshing. She says, as a fellow builder, when you see a team doing something new, exciting, and pushing boundaries, you can either be jealous or cheer them on. They're pushing the space forward, improving new ground. Respect to the panel for critiquing constructively whilst also supporting the Beacon. Appreciate you, Maria. Great to hear your insights there as well. We're going to vote for MVP, not only on this panel, but I also want to hear from you guys in the audience. One of you guys that votes for MVP of the panel today is also going to win that last Moku whitelist that we have. Lems will be distributing those in a couple of days. So, illustrious panel, who is your MVP? Illustrious audience, who is your MVP? I'm going to send it over to, Paul raises the hand. We'll give it to Paul first.
Oh my gosh, it's Lems. Why is Lems so quiet all the time? When he speaks up and shares his mind and gets passionate, I get so fired up, and he's like dropping all this wisdom that I'm benefiting from. I feel like we're all benefiting from. So Lems takes it away.
Lems, who's your MVP?
I'm going to give it to Jerry, and probably just because he stroked my ego earlier.
Jerry, who's your MVP?
Dub. I think this was Dub's strongest episode. No, I'm just kidding. I think it's definitely Lems. Lems fucking crushed it. He gave her that hawk to her.
He sure did. Knock, who you got?
The layup. It's Lems. Man killed it today.
It's a layup. Ed Chang, who you got?
Lems.
Sinjin.
Lems all day, all night, brother.
You love to hear it. And Will's from the Stardust account.
Must I really say it? Of course it's Lems.
I couldn't hear him, but I'll assume he said Lems
He said
too.
Lems.
He's absolutely running away with it.
Is this going to be the
All
first
right.
unanimous other than who Lems voted for, which doesn't count?
Hey, dude.
Sorry.
Jared, you still count to me, buddy.
Thanks, man. That's crazy. Hit him, Sam.
No, I'm in the other room. He can't reach me.
Wild Paul strategically positioning himself depending on what he's saying on the panel at any given time. Lems, you're our MVP of the day. What do you want to plug, big dog?
Oh man, I didn't expect to get MVP. I guess this is being in deep down the rabbit hole of doing everything for our own token launch has led me some insights to all this insanity. So yeah, that's what we got coming in the next few months. But we're not going to launch into the bloodbath as we just talked about earlier. But we got a token coming in the next few months, and what's coming soon is an NFT mint for our launchpad that we just started from. So it'll be launching in the next few weeks. We haven't announced a date yet. So yeah, if someone I know and you are not on the whitelist already, you can slide in my DMs. We are closing collabs this week, but hey, we got some spots left open. So if I know you, I'll throw you on the whitelist. It's a free mint for that. It's to access our token launchpad. So you can launch tokens into hopefully not a bloodbath, and then that will be better. But yeah, that's what we're doing at Lizard Labs right now. We are ETH Lizards, aka Lizard Labs, and yeah, just slide in my DMs if you haven't got a whitelist already, and I'll hook you up.
I haven't got one.
Down bad for that. Best of luck to you and the team over there. Excited to see what you guys cook up, and best of luck whenever you get to the point of release. A bunch of people voting for Sinjin, a bunch of people also voting for Lems. That seems like the big takeaway from today. Graslow says Lems is the little lizard legend with the big takes, MVP. Let's give it to Graslow, baby. Graslow doesn't get enough love. He's always here supporting us. Make sure you guys tune into Graslow's space later tonight as well. I think it's in an hour and a half. I always forget the time by a little bit. It's on my calendar though, so make sure you tune into that. Graslow, thank you again for your support, brother. And to wrap us up, of course, Avalanche, not merely a participant, but a pioneering powerhouse in the blockchain universe, collaborating with some of the most electrifying entities in esports and entertainment, with partnerships that span strategic synergies with TSM Blitz, through the dynamic realms of Korean esports with the titan of T1 that I mentioned earlier, to nostalgic nuances of Maplestory. They're not just a part of the game, they're leading the revolution, making monumental moves that meld the magic of gaming with game-breaking technology. Thanks to our sponsor, Avalanche, the official blockchain of Gamified, and of course, reload, regroup, and rally as we rally round. Forward to salute Shrapnel, the strategic superstar spearheading the pulse of Web3 gaming, currently in Brazil, by the way, doing an esports event, which I think is absolutely awesome. The team invited me to fly out. I wish I could be there, but I can't, unfortunately. So I hope you guys are absolutely crushing it over there and showing people the greatness that is Shrapnel. They're the architects of your arenas, the guardian of your gameplay. Our sponsor is the official game of Gamified. And before we power down, let's spotlight Stardust one more time. The stellar scaffold of Gamified. Don't miss their latest cosmic creation, Stardust's innovative user acquisition tool. Stardust is dazzling more gamers than ever, capturing hearts and handles at a cost that's nearly cosmic dust. Stardust transforms this dream into Stardust transforms dreams into a reality
You
by
got this,
precision
Sam. Take
targeting
us home.
the perfect players for your platform at just the right moment. So keep your games gleaming and your player counts climbing. Let's start a sprinkle of stellar secret sauce on your strategies, supercharging your success. Huge shout out to our sponsor, Stardust, for being the official infrastructure of Gamified. I'm in shambles. I'm going to go take a nap, guys. It's been a great episode. I love each and every one of you. Will's behind the Stardust account. Sinjin coming in with an absolute heater. Lem's the MVP of the episode. Ed Chang, the God King of Avalanche. Of course, Wild Paul, who I'm here with in real life. Absolutely amazing. Thank you for having me. Mr. Knock himself from Magic Eden. Jerry. Love you, buddy. We'll see you guys same place, same time next week. Can't wait.